Hi, I'm David Johnson, and this is Verse by Verse. One of the greatest abuses in the long history of mankind has been the practice of slavery. The word itself brings to mind some of the terrible ways humans have treated those who did not have the power to resist. From man's earliest recorded history, slavery has allowed the rich and powerful to exploit the poor and defenseless. Slavery continued almost unabated until the end of the 18th century, when Haiti officially outlawed slavery. Throughout the 19th century, most modern nations, including our own, passed laws freeing the slaves. The last nation to officially ban slavery was Mauritania in 1981. Yet, even though slavery is officially banned throughout the world, international human rights organizations estimate that nearly 50 million people are living in slavery today, and 1/4 of those are children. With that sad reality in mind, it may come as a surprise to learn that the Bible tells anyone who wants to be a Christian that he or she must enter into a voluntary slavery. How can that be true? Why would a Christian ever give up his freedom and become a slave? In the Epistle of Romans, the Apostle Paul wrote one of several sections explaining this important concept. Here's what he wrote, Romans 6, verses 15 and 16. What then? Shall we sin because we're not under law but under grace? Certainly not. Do you not know that to whom you present yourselves slaves to obey, you are that one's slaves whom you obey, whether of sin, leading to death, or of obedience, leading to righteousness? In this passage, Paul is saying that we will either be slaves of sin or slaves of obedience, the opposite of sin. There is no middle ground here. We must choose one or the other. Most of us can understand that evil has a tremendous power to enslave and hold captive those who practice sin. If you've ever tried to break free from some sin that's been a part of your life for a long time, you know from personal experience how difficult it can be to escape the tyranny of sin. But what did he mean by telling us we must become slaves of obedience? Trying to understand Paul's perspective through the lens of our modern perceptions of slavery can hinder our ability to comprehend this important concept. To grasp what he meant, we need to understand what slavery meant in the first century world in which he lived. Historians have concluded that up to 1/3 of all of the people who lived in the first century Roman world were slaves. It's true that some of those slaves endured short, brutal, painful lives, but not all. Many slave owners treated their slaves well, giving them a good education, housing, clothing, food, and many other amenities. Most physicians, teachers, police, firemen, and civil servants were slaves. Poor parents sometimes sold their children into slavery, not for the money, but because if their child became the slave of a benevolent owner, the child would have a better life than the parents could provide for them. Slaves could often purchase their own freedom, but many chose to remain as slaves. Some slaves were so successful that they owned slaves themselves. It is true that slaves had few legal rights. The kind of life they lived depended upon the care and kindness of the owner. And this is where Paul's instruction becomes clear. We have all been enslaved by our own sins, and sin is a cruel, heartless taskmaster. There is only one way to be freed from the shackles of sin. We must be purchased by another master. Twice in the epistle of 1 Corinthians, Paul explains what God has done and what is required of us. In 1 Corinthians 6, verses 19 and 20, Paul wrote, "You are not your own, for you were bought at a price. Therefore, glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's." A chapter later, in 1 Corinthians 7, verse 23, he again said, "You were bought at a price. Do not become slaves of men." Our enslavement by sin was ended when Jesus paid for us with his own life, and we agreed to become his willing bondservants. We are no longer free to do whatever might be temporarily appealing to us. He is now our benevolent owner, and we belong completely to him to do as he directs. He has shown us that the way our old master was taking us would end in death, but he promises us that the end result of our service to him will be righteousness and life forever. Jesus taught, no man can serve two masters. Unlike a slave, we have the ability to choose who our master will be: sin with all of its heartache and death, or the master who provides gentle, loving care and eventually eternal life. If you'd like to know more, check out the article, The Truth Shall Make You Free, on the Life, Hope, and Truth website.
Verse by Verse is a companion podcast to the Daily Bible Verse blog, which you can find on the Life, Hope, and Truth Learning Center. Check out the show notes for more.